The DA on Monday called for Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan to announce a comprehensive plan to tackle SA's twin deficits during this year's mid-term budget policy statement.
Slow growth, persistent unemployment, and high inflation have become simple facts of life in South Africa, with the consequence of undermining hope. We believe that all of our economic woes are summed up in two key measures. Firstly, an increase in the current account deficit, something that is caused by a decline in our country's competitiveness arising from government's mismanagement of the economy and failure to attract investments. And secondly, a widening of the fiscal deficit, which, as you know, because of a deterioration in government finances, driven by a decline in tax revenue and an inability to contain and constrain government spending.
The DA are putting forward a 10-point plan that, if implemented, should help towards reducing the current account deficit and South Africa's budget deficit, which the DA says are symptoms of bad governance.
We announced the measures to constrain increases in administered prices. Administered prices being a very negative, having a very negative effect on economic growth in the last couple of years, especially with regards to electricity and water tariffs, communication costs and fuel prices have all placed a significant upward pressure on inflation, thereby inhibiting local production.
We need a plan to open up trade properly with the rest of Africa. The government hasn't tabled the kinds of reforms we need to open up that trade. We need to make it much easier to trade across borders. We need to make sure that we prioritize these free trade agreements that are coming down the line, that we make it that we cut red tape when it comes to importing and exporting goods, and that we overhaul the mandate of our diplomatic corps so they're held to promoting trade objectives. And then lastly, we think it's time for the Finance Minister on Wednesday to announce a final time frame for the abolition of exchange controls. If the current account deficit reflects how well the government is managing South Africa's economy, the fiscal deficit reflects how well the government's managing its own finances.
Firstly, steps to restore confidence in the mining and automotive sector is very important. The mining and automotive sectors are significant contributors to our tax base and major job creators. But labour unrest in these sectors have led to the deterioration in investor confidence and compromised future investment. Also, secondly, moderate increases in the public sector wage bill and reform pay structures.
On the spending side, we need the Finance Minister to draw a line in the sand on Wednesday on unnecessary expenditure. Then handouts to ineffective state-owned entities. Clearly, these state-owned entities are becoming a drag on our fiscus. Our government debt is 43% of GDP, but when you include the contingent liabilities, the guarantees extended to our state-owned entities, it extends above 50%. So I think on Wednesday, the Finance Minister should announce a bold plan to reduce the financial assistance extended to inefficient state-owned entities, and in some case table proposals to privatize some of those SOEs and get them off the government books. And then lastly, establishing policy certainty once and for all. It's not appropriate that the NDP is still a matter that's up for debate in the tripartite alliance. The Finance Minister is one minister with the heft to come out behind the NDP strongly, but not only in what he says, also in what he does. We need the budgets on Wednesday to start reflecting how the accountability that the NDP speaks about will start being implemented, and how some of the growth-promoting proposals are going to start showing up in the actual numbers. So that's what we're calling for on Wednesday. Policy certainty established once and for all by the Finance Minister.